we've been talking about gardening, and we all have our gardening kits, and I just like dragons, so I thought I'd read it to you guys today.
I like dragons too. Does anybody else like dragons?
Hopefully you guys can see that. Is that good there? So it says, every dragon in the forest of Nogard was a meat eater. Meat Hook was their leader. In the middle of the forest of Nogard stood Castle Dark. There was nothing Meat Hook liked better than to raid the castle at night with his friends. He particularly liked the sweet taste of royal princesses, and the crispy crunch of brave knights was almost as delicious. Bring it nice and close. But one dragon was different. While Meat Hook and his friends sat in his cave planning their next raid, Herb was happy to tend his vegetable patch. He grew turnips and tomatoes, leeks and lettuces, cauliflowers and carrots. He grew peas and parsnips, red and yellow peppers, potatoes and parsnips, for Herb was a vegetarian.
He grows a lot of vegetables.
Yeah.
Late one night, the brave knights held a meeting at the dark castle. Bernard the Bold was their leader. The time had come to rid our forest of the fearful dragons who raid our castles, devour our people, and eat all the best wild boar meat. We must plan a great hunt. Now listen carefully. The king has decreed that each dragon must be captured alive. Alive, grumbled the knights. Why? Alive, because the dragons we find are to walk the plank into the moat of Castle Dark for all to see. Hip hip hooray, shouted the knights. Suddenly a rush of air and the sound of wings beating brought the knights to attention. Through the windows of the high stone walls they saw a monstrous dragon flying away in front of the full moon. A dragon spy! The dragons met in a huge hidden cave. Herb, who had not been invited, knew nothing of the knight's scheme. Meat Hook spoke. My friends, the knights are planning a hunt. We'll be ready for them, won't we? And in answer, dragon tails pounded the earth floor, and the cave shook with the sound of thundering evil voices. No, bellowed Meat Hook, we shall disappear. Stay hidden in our caves. Wait them out, then we shall attack, and then you can sing your songs. The dragons roared their approval of the plan, and their fiery breath lashed the roof of the huge cave.
That's a big cave.
It is a big cave. As this was happening, Herb was cooking a new soup made of butter, leeks, onions, and potatoes. He smiled. Very tasty, I must give it a name. Herb's famous lake water veggie slurp. Herb didn't realize that he was in danger, that when the night set out, he'd be the only dragon to be seen in all of Nogard Forest. Oh no.
Yikes.
That evening, 100 knights in groups of 4 set forth on their hunt, each heading in a different direction. For 7 days and 7 nights they searched, but not a dragon was to be seen.
That's a lot of nights.
You're right.
Then, on the last day of the hunt, a group heading west saw a dragon in the distance. They knew just what to do. Herb was hoeing in his garden, quite unaware that he was being surrounded on all sides. As he bent to pull out a difficult lead, the knights pounced. Herb's blue flame was powerless against the chainmail mesh of their nets. His wings strained uselessly against the ropes as he was dragged away by his tail. What have I done, thought Herb. Won't somebody tell me? But he couldn't speak because his jaws were bound tightly with rope. One of Meat Hook's spy dragons watched from a distance, then glided silently away to report what he had seen. Oh no.
Poor dragon.
No one of the knights got a rope.
The king ordered Herb to meet his fate at dawn in the jaws of the hungry alligators in the moat. From his small, dark, iron-barred cell, Herb could hear their horrid snapping sounds and see the wooden plank he would walk to meet his doom. Suddenly he heard a voice. Herb, you ridiculous excuse for a dragon. I have a last offer to make. We've decided to help you. I've got a dozen dragons here ready to tear down this jail and get you out. We ask only one thing in return. What is it? Asked Herb. Do anything to save my life. Take this, hissed Meat Hook as he thrust his scaly fist up against the bars. What's this? It's wild boar meat. Eat it and become one of us. It's a small price to pay for your freedom, he gloated, as I'm sure you will agree. Thanks, but no thanks, Herb said. I don't see it your way, so I'll take my chances. I don't ask you to stop eating meat, so why do you ask me to stop eating vegetables? Idiot, Meat Hook muttered as he flew off into the darkness. You can't be different in the dragon world and survive.
Oh,
Hundreds of people crowded around the castle moat as Herb was dragged from the cell. A rope held his jaws shut. A huge man with a long pole stepped forward for the crimes of burning, stealing, and murdering, and to serve as an example for all who would dare to repeat these actions. The crowd roared its approval. A drummer rolled his sticks as Herb was pulled to his feet at the water's edge. As Herb was being pushed from behind, with only one single second before he would drop into the swirling waters, a tiny voice cried out, "Wait!"
I wonder who it was.
The drumming stopped. A little girl ran down the plank and grasped the pole. As Herb teetered at the edge and the alligators awaited their meal. "This dragon is my friend. His name is Herb. I've watched him tend his vegetable patch. I've played with him, and never once has he tried to harm me. He only eats vegetables. You must spare his life." "Stop," cried Bernard the Bold as he approached the girl. "How do we know what you say is true?" The little girl dragged Herb back by his tail and climbed up his scales. Before anyone could stop her, she released the ends of the rope that held his jaws tight, and they snapped open with a rush of blue flame as he perched on his head. "Nicole, get down from there," shouted a man. "It's all right, Father," said Nicole. Then she climbed right into Herb's mouth and sat there, with only her legs dangling free. Herb gulped and tried to smile. "See, now do you believe me? He wouldn't harm anyone." As the awestruck crowd stared up at her, the silence was broken by a loud crash. Meat Hook, who was spying on the proceedings, had fallen out from the treetop hiding place. He lay helpless on the ground, his wings entangled in a mass of branches. At once, 12 knights sprang forward and bound him with ropes. "That's one of the meat eaters," shouted the little girl as she climbed out of Herb's mouth. "Feed them both to the gators."
and what?
"Stop!" commanded the king. "There's an opportunity here. If we kill these dragons, we risk an all-out war, and many will lose their lives." "You," the king said, pointing at her, "the child says you are a vegetarian. By your word as a dragon, is that true?" "It is, your highness. I am a herbivore." "And you, whatever your name is," the king continued. "Meat Hook," said Meat Hook, puffing up his chest. "I am a meat eater, a carnivore like my father and grandfather before me." "Very well, Meat Hook, I give you a choice. I will not ask you to change your eating habits. It is your rightful choice to eat what you will. But in exchange for sparing your life, I ask that you and your dragon brothers stop feasting on my people. But dragons have always burned and pillaged and devoured knights and princesses. It's what we do. We can't change. No law has the power to change our habits," the king replied. "Only you have the power to change what you are." "We can all live in peace if we want to," said Herb. "Release them," commanded the king. "Dragon Herb and Dragon Meat Hook, I expect your answer by the day's end." What do you think they're gonna do?
Do you think they're gonna agree and try and change?
Maybe. Let's find out. In the hidden cave, all the dragons of Nogard met to hear of the king's offer. "It's a trick to de-dragon us," shouted one. "Better than an endless war, isn't it?" shouted another. "It's not as if we have to become vegetarians like Herb. We just want to give up eating people," said a large dragon from the rear. "Live in peace with people? I can't imagine it," said another. "I wouldn't mind having a nice garden like Herb has," said one of the younger dragons. "And I'll help you if you like," offered Herb. "I'll give you some seeds and show you how to sow and reap." "We must vote on it," announced Meat Hook. Then all of the dragons voted, and the result of that vote is recorded in the history books of Nilgard. And even to this day, the story is told of how Herth, the vegetarian dragon, brought peace to the forest of Nilgard, where dragons and people, meat eaters and vegetarians live together in peace and harmony.